Israel is crossing the limits. The conflict between Israel and Hamas erupted in October 2023 when Israel launched a military campaign in Gaza to retaliate against Hamas attacks on Israeli territory. Initially, the international community strongly supported Israel after the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. However, the manner in which Tel Aviv conducted its military campaign in Gaza and the escalating violence against Palestinians in the West Bank quickly disappointed and angered the international community. According to data from the Gaza Health Agency, after months of fighting, nearly 35,000 Palestinians have been killed, mostly women and children. Is Israel going too far? Israel is sued in international court. Egypt has officially announced its support for South Africa's lawsuit against Israel at the International Court of Justice, accusing Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. In the statement issued on May 12, the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs explained that the decision to support South Africa's lawsuit at the International Court of Justice comes in the context of Israel's increasingly brutal and large-scale military attacks on Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. Specifically, Egypt accuses Israel of deliberately targeting innocent civilians and systematically destroying the civilian infrastructure of the Palestinian people, forcing thousands of people to flee their homes. The Hamas movement also appreciates Egypt's supportive gesture and calls on other countries around the world to take similar actions to support the just cause of the Palestinian people. The announcement by Egypt came after the South African government once again accused Israel of continuously violating the Convention on Genocide and disregarding international law on May 10th. Previously, in December 2013, South Africa officially filed a lawsuit against Israel at the International Court of Justice, demanding that Israel immediately cease all military activities taking place in the Gaza Strip. In addition to the International Court of Justice's demand for Israel to immediately cease its actions in violation of the Convention on Genocide, South Africa also calls for the court to order Israel to immediately withdraw its troops and end the attack on the city of Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. Currently, more than 1 million Palestinians are taking refuge in Rafah, facing shortages of essential supplies and constant airstrikes from Israel. Last week, the Israeli military mobilized thousands of troops, tanks, and fighter jets to enter eastern Rafah, completely controlling and sealing off the only border crossing between Rafah in Gaza and Egypt. In light of this situation, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has warned that if Israel launches a full-scale military campaign into Rafah, the city will face an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. As the first Arab country to sign a peace treaty with Israel in 1979, Egypt has always played a crucial mediating role between Israel and the Palestinians. Even in this current conflict, Egypt is the only country with a border with Gaza that is not controlled by Israel. However, Egypt has refused to coordinate humanitarian aid activities for Gaza through the Rafah crossing since Israel took control of the area. Recently, Egypt has continuously called on all parties to avoid escalating tensions after the failed negotiations between Israel and Hamas in Cairo. Israel is increasingly isolated on the international stage. The recent military actions by Prime Minister Netanyahu's government in Gaza have sparked intense opposition from the international community, pushing Israel into a difficult position on the international stage. Specifically, on May 10th, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, made extremely tense remarks before the UN General Assembly voted on Palestine's membership in the organization as a full member. In his speech, Erdogan held a copy of the UN Charter and then shredded it on the spot to demonstrate Israel's strong opposition to this vote. He declared that member states were tearing up the UN Charter with this action. However, Erdogan's actions did not prevent the UN General Assembly from passing a resolution supporting Palestine's membership with 143 votes in favor, 9 votes against, and 25 abstentions. The resolution states that Palestine should be recognized as a full member of the United Nations and calls on the Security Council to consider this issue. Although this is a symbolic resolution, as the United States has the power to veto, it still holds significant meaning for Palestine. It shows that Israel is increasingly isolated on the international stage due to its military actions in Palestine. In early April 2024, after 6 months of conflict in Gaza, international media focused on Israel's growing isolation on the international stage. The Guardian newspaper in the UK published an article titled "Isolated Abroad, Divided at Home" to describe Israel's current situation. The US news agency AP also reported, after 6 months of war, Israel's isolation is increasing. Similarly, Reuters in the UK published an article titled, "6 months after the Gaza war, Israel faces deepening isolation." According to analysts, Israel is facing a real diplomatic tsunami due to its military actions in Gaza. As mentioned, at the end of 2023, South Africa filed a lawsuit against Israel in the International Court of Justice, accusing Tel Aviv of committing genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza. By the end of March 2024, the United Nations Security Council also passed a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, with the United States unexpectedly abstaining instead of vetoing as usual. The U.S.'s abstention, as Israel's closest ally, shows that Washington wants Tel Aviv to change its strategy in Gaza. The U.S. has also punished Israeli settlers in the West Bank and strongly condemned Israel for the humanitarian situation in Gaza, as well as attacks on relief workers. Many European countries and parliaments have also passed resolutions calling on Israel to change its approach in the conflict with Hamas. According to commentator Gideon Beaumont of The Guardian, the military actions of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government in Gaza have caused the international community to be extremely outraged, turning the long-warned diplomatic tsunami into a reality for Israel. U.S. President Joe Biden has threatened to stop supplying weapons to Israel in protest against military campaigns targeting the city of Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians are seeking refuge. Ireland and Spain have also pledged to officially recognize Palestine as an independent state. In Europe, pressure is increasing to impose a ban on importing products from Israeli settlements. Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo, who holds the rotating presidency of the European Union Council, stated that he is mobilizing allies to support this ban, accusing Israel of violating human rights provisions in the cooperation agreement with the EU. Turkey, a country with a long-standing complex relationship with Israel, has also imposed a complete trade ban with Israel. In South America, Israel has also seen many countries sever or downgrade diplomatic relations. Among them, Colombia became the second South American country after Bolivia to completely cut off relations with Israel. Initially, the international community strongly supported Israel after the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. However, the manner in which Tel Aviv conducted its military campaign in Gaza and the escalating violence against Palestinians in the West Bank quickly disappointed and angered the international community with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Despite proposals from the U.S. and many other countries for Israel to recognize Palestine as an independent state, Prime Minister Netanyahu has repeatedly rejected this idea. The Israeli government has declared that it will continue its military campaign targeting the city of Rafah, despite warnings from various sides, including U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's warning in March that this action will further isolate Israel. According to Yossi Michelberg, an expert at the Chatham House Institute in the UK, what has happened in the past few months is the accumulation of many long-standing issues between Israel and Palestine. Experts have long warned of the risk of conflict due to the unstable situation. McKelberg believes that the wave of opposition from the US and Europe this time is unprecedented, as Israel uses US-supplied weapons to attack Palestinian civilians. According to commentator Dalia Scheindlin of Haaretz, Turkey's trade embargo and the US's delay in delivering weapons and threat to stop supplying weapons to Israel are strong blows to Tel Aviv. Trade between Israel and Turkey has increased to $9 billion per year. Turkey's exports and labor are crucial to Israel's construction industry. Ankara is also a major supplier of raw materials, food, agricultural products, and textiles for the Israeli market. Meanwhile, the U.S. is the top aid donor to Israel. As of 2023, the U.S. has provided a total of $158.7 billion in aid, of which $124.3 billion is for Israel's military and missile defense systems. According to the agreement signed in 2015 under former U.S. President Barack Obama, Washington currently provides $3.8 billion in military aid annually to Tel Aviv, not to mention the recently approved additional aid package of $15 billion. Shalom Lipner, a longtime advisor to Israeli prime ministers, warns that if Israel ignores warnings from its most important allies, it will cause serious strategic damage. Lipner believes that international disappointment with Israel has been simmering for a long time, and the Gaza conflict is just the last straw. She warns that Israel has acted thoughtlessly, putting itself in a difficult position.